5 more Memphis cops violated policy in Tyre Nichols' case. According to recent released documents from the city of Memphis, Tennessee, 5 additional Memphis police officers violated department policy. Look at that. But they were not fired. Following the arrest and fatal beating of 29-year-old Tyre Nichols, who was allegedly pulled over for reckless driving last year. Nichols died January 10th, 2023, 3 days after he was beaten, pepper sprayed, and shot on January 7th by former Memphis police officers Justin Smith, Emmitt Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., Demetrius Haley, and Tadarrius Bean, all of whom were initially fired and later charged for Nichols' death. While 6th officer Preston Hemphill was also fired, he was not criminally charged. That is a list of police officers, y'all, that we can say they were pepper sprayed and beat him. They actually just tortured this brother. The Associated Press reported that, including in the latest documents from the city of Memphis, which last month released 21 additional hours of footage from the night of the beating, our personnel files for terminated Memphis officers, police officers, and fire department employees. This is ridiculous. All the first responders jumped in. A witness statement, email, exchange between police and city officials and internal police investigation files. This is according to Ashley Williams over at the Atlanta Black Star. Memphis Mayor Young said in a statement that the release of the additional documents serve as a commitment to transparency from the city's administration, adding, quote, "We understand the importance of releasing these documents to the public." According to the AP, a coalition of media organizations had pressed the city to release more information, citing the First Amendment, which led to the release of additional hours of footage and audio on January 30th. The documents show 5 additional officers received internal affairs reprimands that included body camera violation and not completing or inaccurately completing documentation. It also showed that the officer who were involved or who were arrested, Haley, Bean, Martin, Mills, and Justin Smith, were tested for drugs, and their boots were collected for evidence. Hemphill also had to be urine tested for drugs, the documents show. Again, this is Ashley at Atlanta Black Star. Going on, there's more, y'all. An internal investigative report from shortly before midnight on January 7th showed Nichols was hospitalized on a ventilator in the ICU and had a bump on his head, As noted in the report, Nichols was reportedly with Lieutenant Dwayne Smith, who is pictured here, at the hospital. Smith was the supervisor on the scene who was allowed to retire. Listen to this, allowed to retire before he was fired. Let's just stop right here for a second. Rayyvana, I know the mayor of Memphis, and this is absolutely the damning part to me. To say that the city is being transparent is absolutely fanciful with words, and I would just go as far as saying it's a lie. Because if you were being transparent, you would need a coalition of media organizations pressing you to release those documents, and to find out now that the police in Memphis are not just watching people beat people. It's the police department, it's the fire department, and other first responders. And now we have 5 new people introduced into this case who were not charged. This is absolutely ridiculous. What say you?
I mean, it's completely disturbing, and it just shows a complete lack of accountability from not just the police department, but a culture of lacking accountability in Memphis. In these public services, what should be jobs that are meant to be serving the people, they're refusing to be accountable to those individuals. And I think what's really disturbing is, when they murdered Tyre Nichols, I'm not afraid to say that it was a murder. They murdered him. The video was released shortly after, and we all saw it. And there was a lot of public outrage briefly. But then they started doing their spin work. They started doing the work to change the media narrative. And there really hasn't been a lot of focus and attention on trying to secure accountability, trying to get a semblance of justice in this case. And that's how these other officers were able to fly under the radar. Because and it's important that, and shows like this one and, others on the network at TYT and activists online, have been trying to, to point this out and trying to keep attention on, not just this murder, but all tons of other instances of police brutality and violent police murders to get full accountability. But there's a lot of money that goes into the spin for police departments. And just as an example, here in Chicago, there's a former police chief who the police department deploys to pretend to be an eyewitness to any instances where there was a, alleged police brutality, and he'll be interviewed on the news, and his accounts will be, promoted all through, right wing or, right leaning media here in the city, despite the fact that he's never there. He's never an actual witness to the crime. He just shows up and pretends he was at the behest of the public relations for the police department. And Chicago's not the only city like that. It's really hard to combat this media narrative, which is why it's so important for shows like this, to focus on that and try to put pressure on for accountability.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And the lack of accountability and the spin didn't even take 2 weeks or a month to start. It started that night. Because
Mhm.
per the documents, one of the officers, Smith, told Rovon Wells, who was Nichols' mother, at her home that Nichols was intoxicated and asked if he was known to take any narcotics. Wells, this is Nichols' mother, said he occasionally smoked a little marijuana, to which Smith responded, well, nah, he owns something else than marijuana. According to the documents, he also told the mother during the conversation that Nichols was with paramedics and was going to jail on a DUI charge. Again, that's according to the Atlanta Black Star. However, a statement from Hemphill in the report, ain't nothing in the car. I quote that, ain't nothing in the car. So I don't know why or what he was trying to hide or just on something, seemed to contradict court filings from the officer's defense attorneys alleging that there were hallucinogens, substance, along with stolen credit cards and debit cards in Nichols' car. This is according to the commercial appeal. Listen, a witness who told investigators about what she saw the night Nichols was beating or got beat, or we should say murdered, right? Even though it was 3 days later. She said she saw the police activity outside of her home on the street where we never really have anything happen. According to the report, the witness said she saw a person lying on the ground, and 5 minutes later, paramedics arrived. Dude wasn't budging. Dude, of course, in this case is Nichols. The witness also said that. I was like, oh my God, I think he's dead. It took 3 or 4 officers to sit Nichols, who the witness said was wearing short handcuffs, and leaned him on the back of a car. The EMT guy lifted his hand and it fell. It fell real hard. And I said, oh my God, they just raised his arm and it fell. The witness said. That's when I'm like, man, something's wrong with dude. Dude, of course, again, she's referring to Nichols. The commercial appeal reported another finding that conflicted with that was shown in the video footage. After struggling with the suspect, Detective T. Bean, this guy was a detective, utilized soft hand techniques with a closed hand, which was not effective. The suspect continued to resist officers, in which additional officers made to the scene to place the suspect in custody. According to a response to resistance form, which officers have to fill out anytime there's a use of force during an arrest. However, the body cam that Rayyvana was just talking about and that we all saw, the body cam footage shows something different. The video shows officers repeatedly punching and kicking Nichols, which are examples of hard hand techniques used by officers. And that, of course, is coverage according to Atlanta Black Star. This is absolutely what's wrong with policing in this country. We give these people guns, tasers, sticks made of lead to do nothing but terrorize Black communities, brown communities, and people marginalized in general. While you will not believe it right now if you're watching TV, but I'm from the South, and the redneck communities where I'm from don't get along with police officers. We've seen this rise where police and rednecks are looking like they're best friends. In the MAGA age, that is not the case. So this idea that policing is working in this country, if you believe it's working, it may be working just as it was designed, but it's not working to protect regular people, Rayyvana.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely not. And I mean, every aspect of the story is really disturbing, but I want to highlight the excellent reporting from Atlanta Black Star here and the journalists that have really been keeping the pressure on the department to get all of this information, to get access to these documents, to get the increased amount of footage. Of course, what the department did was release a ton of it all at once so that it was hard to parse through. But regardless, these journalists put in the time and the effort to get this information to us. And at a time where, the field of journalism is suffering major layoffs. Entire media organizations are shutting down. It's so important that we all support journalism and we support this type of news media so that we can continue to hold these people to account, because this is one of the few ways that people get justice in this country. When we have a corrupt legal system, we have a corrupt system of policing, that is these outlets like Atlanta Black Star, and it is shows like Indisputable that when we can shine a light on these issues, sometimes we actually are able to see accountability and justice.
I think you're absolutely right. And the fact that, you have shows like Indisputable, which is one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing show. We just crossed 1 million subscribers. And I think it's because of that hunger for people to actually look for sources that are providing something alternate to this narrative. Because a lot of the time you see on mainstream media where people just run with whatever the police are saying and to just give them space and they automatically assume there's nothing going on wrong or something had to happen.